Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're super excited to be doing these sort of post-match, post-episode debriefs with you all again this year, similar to like we did last season. This year, obviously, we have Aren with us again, and we'll also be having me and Alex on every time we fight in order to talk about sort of what happened and answer any questions you'll have. We're also hoping this season to bring on more team members. So we'll have like our drivers on, and we'll also have some of our other engineers and team members on. Throughout the next few months to sort of answer things and talk about what's going on. Um, I'm sure many of you already know this, but this year for the first time, our Seems Reasonable crew actually had two robots with us at the event. So sort of to kick things off, Aren, could you maybe chat a little bit about what led to that decision and sort of what the prep work was like bringing up to the event?
Yeah, so due to how TV works, it isn't quite apparent how big of a crew is actually happening over here. So the Seems Reasonable team is 16 people, and they actually showed full team for Tantrum and Blip in last episode. And we've been chugging at it for a while, but a year and a half or so before season 6, we had started progress on a flywheel flipper. Like Tantrum 1 was a flipper, and I love flippers. A lot of people tend to love flippers. But we were building it out, and it looked like it was going to work. So we had a decision point with regards to can we just apply with 2 in terms of don't like Tantrum just hit top 4. Seems kind of silly, leave it at home. So we chugged forward, applied with both, and then due to how the process works, or they're unique, competitive, like should be competitive robots, and went for it. So Alex stepped up big on the home front for taking over design management and making sure Tantrum stuff happened, but the full team was making a whole lot of parts in both directions.
I think I definitely think one of the things that speaks to our sort of team mantra and one of our mottos is the idea of like, hey, we came up with this really exciting idea, the flywheel flipper, we love it. But at the same time, Tantrum went so far last year and we had such a warm receiving from everybody. There's absolutely never a moment where at least I thought we should retire it. So it just sort of was a natural decision amongst all of us that like, we want to stick to what what we know works and what is loved. But at the same time, like the sport, we still think has a lot of room to grow. And so we were really excited to bring that forward as well. So that was just the natural solution to bring both for sure.
Right. And on top of that, like the whole idea behind Blip is really complicated. And so we were kind of hedging our bets a little bit, making sure we did have a fallback.
Yeah, at least one of our robots was going to work. So
yeah. It's good having fallbacks.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess with bringing 2 robots, there was a little bit more logistics involved. So packing up for Vegas, which was a new venue, new place, was pretty exciting. And we actually have some pictures of our shop and stuff. Aren, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so this team, we've got I would say our headquarters is in Los Altos, California. This is the Doherty's garage, Sean's garage. You'll notice him, he's a dude with a hat. We just take over the garage. It's a kitted out workshop made for building Battlebots at this point. And here you can see us stripping most of it out to bring with the competition, because we're one of the lucky teams that is within driving range of the event. So this was a day or two before. We're super lucky. RC chatting with his dad right there, was amazing from a sponsor perspective. This is West Coast Products. They sell First Robotics components and plenty of other stuff, but they were awesome enough to drive truck up, help us load it up. You can't quite see in this photo, but there's 2 ducks on the ground inside that truck too. We helped bring Duck down to the event as well. But as you can see, most things are a team effort. There's 5 of us trying to get a crate onto the lift gate.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about having the truck too is we pretty much just like transposed our whole lab into the pits. And so we had drill presses, we had tools galore. And that was very convenient to be able to.
We had an overweight 26-foot box truck by about 250 pounds. So we were tempted to throw a Duck out the door, but chose other options.
To bring Duck, come on. So here are the 2 robots before being loaded. I just think this picture is really cute, showing Blip and Tantrum side by side before they've sort of gone through their makeup and glamour for TV. And then this is the pair of siblings together at the fight.
Couple days later, give a glow up with the arts department.
Yeah. So
I think I think both bots turned out awesome this year. I'm really proud of the crew on the aesthetics front. So
yeah, they look
everyone,
amazing.
yeah.
Cool. So Blip and Tantrum are obviously have very different weapons. One is a puncher spinner and the other is a flipper. So Alex, do you want to maybe talk about how as one crew, some of the drivetrain and some of the underlying guts were still quite similar?
Yeah. One of the things that enabled us to actually have 2 robots at this competition is, yes, the weapons are completely different, but in terms of that center rail, what that kind of drop in is, you we had talked about making that part of Tantrum at one point, but we decided, you know what, let's do a new robot. Let's move forward with that. And so what we ended up with was, take the best parts about Tantrum, right? The drivetrain, the frame, the armor, and put the new weapon on there. And so by doing that, again, it enabled us to have similar parts between them, right? Shorten the design time, manufacturing time, everything. And so the drive rails,
it very much let us focus. So
correct.
Blip's really complicated, but we were able to focus on just that complicated bit and then drop it and wrap it around known entities.
Right.
Yeah, and
right.
this here is a picture of Blip without its armor on, and you can see the drive rails right here.
Yep. Yeah, and so you can see the drive rail, the belly pan, I mean, everything here. And then if you go to the next photo, you'll see Tantrum, very similar shot, right? It's drivetrain and armor and belly pan are the same, roughly. I mean, there are improvements. That's the thing, is that even though they look very similar, we did make improvements from one to the other. And so, new Tantrum after this year, probably going to get, the next rev of that. And so it's super exciting to make those little incremental changes while still having something that we know we can feel confident in being really reliable in the arena. So,
yeah, because Tantrum this year is actually majority season 5 like components, and some things are retrofitted.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the things, actually, speaking of which, we did change was to do with the puncher and the spinner. So we really focused last year on honing in our drivetrain, which we feel like we've gotten pretty good at. And so for season 6, as we've talked about, the weapon really is what we focused on. So each time we do one of these, we're going to talk about sort of one of our different upgrades and sort of get a little in detail. And so for this picture, we're highlighting our new rails for the puncher. So last year, these sort of bulkheads were all aluminum. And we had some issues with getting hit in the weapon and getting knocked around, where we would actually sort of be denting them. And then that would cause our weapon to get stuck and get wedged. So it wasn't like that smooth rail that you desire on a linear slide. It was getting a little wonky. And so this year we actually took those bulkheads out, the same exact ones that were in season 5, these sort of this black part here, and machined sort of slots into them, and have instead these stainless steel steel rails that are going there. And that's so when the weapon sort of gets hit or gets knocked, it's not deforming as much. And those are also swappable. So we had a few sets that we were able to swap into our bulkheads as well if they were to get damaged, which was much easier. And that one of the fun parts about doing that sort of partial upgrade, where we're not sort of redesigning everything beautiful from scratch, is these bulkheads were actually a little bit potato chipped as well. So holding them in the mill, figuring out how to machine into them was also quite a fun challenge. So yeah, that is one of the main things we changed. And we think it helped a lot with our reliability in terms of being able to take punches in our own punch. And cool. So before a Malice fight, I guess getting into our first fight of the actual season, that was sort of interesting for me and Alex, at least. It was sort of our first Battlebots experience as captains. So I personally was quite nervous. I think we had a lot of excitement last year. We beat Sawblaze. Like, it was incredible. It was super exciting. And we made a really deep run into the bracket. So this year I felt like there's a lot of pressure to show like, oh, last year definitely wasn't a mistake. Like, Tantrum is a good robot. We worked really hard on it and it definitely deserved it. So
yeah, I think nervous is a little bit of an understatement for going into this first fight. It was not only the weight of being new captains, right? The first time you're kind of doing the interview process yourself, but also just, again, like the weight of everyone's expectations, right? You don't want to skunk the season. And
well, if you're based on last year's expectations, like Tantrum's going to be a brick and probably have its weapon die for some reason or other. And you met expectations.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Thanks.
that's true. And this year too, there was also a live audience. So doing some of the post-fight interviews with Chris and Kenny, I'd never done that before. It's quite nerve-wracking to have a huge camera in your face with sort of hundreds of people watching right after you've gone through a pretty adrenaline rushing 3 minutes where you don't know what's going to happen. And we also went to a judge's decision too on our first fight. So, we were pretty confident, but anything can happen if you leave it up to the judges, obviously. So that was pretty exciting. And actually before the match too, it was quite tumultuous in some ways because there was a power outage. Alex, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So we were the second fight filmed out of all of the fights filmed for the entire season. And on the first day, everybody goes into the arena to get filming. They have all the audience, piling in, and there's a blackout. And so the mains power from the city was having issues, and it took a couple hours for them to sort through that. And so, as Bunny had said, right, they used the rolling blackout weapon, and
It worked.
maybe it's a little bit of premonition here, because there's a blackout. We were sitting there waiting for hours, but it was actually really nice having the fans there because we were able to walk around and talk to them, and also take a little bit of a nap before, because it was a long wait, but we did end up having our fight, and sans some sound issues, right? So there's kind of interesting issues with this audio, and it was difficult to hear what was going on, but hopefully our interviews will improve after that first one. But
You're fine.
we're fine. Okay, yeah. But
Yeah. So that was really fun. And again, sort of going back to our Seems Reasonable team, it was really cute having sort of the Blip crew watching us and supporting us from the pits when we went out. That was really fun, and vice versa. Obviously, when Blip went out, the whole Tantrum crew was cheering for them from the back, and it's always fun to welcome them back into the pits after.
I gotta say, my perspective on this fight was very interesting because I'm just like, oh, okay, it was just new.
Use more words.
It was very new, just because I've been always out there with Tantrum for the last seasons 3, 4, and 5. I'm out there with Tantrum, so this time seeing the robot from the team I'm on the TV without me was definitely it was interesting. It was new. I have no qualms with it or anything. It was just funky. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can see Aren here has a Blip armor hoop as a lap warmer, which is the perfect accessory for watching Battlebots, obviously.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the pre-fight, what we were thinking about going into it, or?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we draw against Bunny with Malice, and we've been talking to Malice, and we're friends with them, so we talk about robots all the time. And so we're it's not an easy fight, right? That's the thing that we're always kind of wondering about, a first match. What are they going to throw you, right? Every team gets different expectations set for them by production in the first episode, kind of. And so for us, it's okay, somebody of, I would say, equal stature, right? And so it'd be nice to see how we do against a proper horizontal with the new Tantrum. And so it was exciting going against Malice. And so we knew they had a weapon. They had made some upgrades from last year, some incremental changes. And so it wasn't going to be a trivial, easy fight. So going into it, we were, again, nervous not only about the production things, but also the fight itself. So, but
yeah, and then that's just some of the strategic things for we know Tantrum's got an advantage if you can stop their weapon. So all of it is get the weapon stopped.
Right.
So if the weapon gets stopped, there are 2-wheel drive versus a well-planted 4-wheel drive. All right. So that's the focus going in, is stop that
the weapon. Right. And good thing, we have such heavy armor, because typically we can stop weapons just by taking punches to the face. So it's what it was designed for. So, but so then the fight went on, and you guys all watched it on TV, and it was exciting.
Yeah, and we were super excited to get our first win of the season as well by judge's decision. And Malice has a really great explanation of sort of what happened with their weapon. So we encourage y'all to check out their Facebook page. And also you can see here they have a really exciting picture of their bearing, which we were able to break on our first hit, which was just super exciting and cool to see.
Right. To see Tantrum hit something and just shatter bearings, right? It was a weapon on weapon hit at the very beginning. Was super exciting to see something, that Tantrum actually destroyed, right? Typically we've had some reliability issues, and so having some legitimate damage on a robot is really exciting.
And I think, Alex, you said this very well in the past, how Tantrum is a little different from typical spinners in that it punches in ways that are unexpected in terms of hitting at the belly pan and really putting energy in weird places. Do you want to maybe talk about that a little?
Sure. Yeah. So when designing a weapon, a lot of people have to decide, am I going to try to pierce through them? Am I going to have a blunt force impact or what? And the best way to describe Tantrum, I would say, is that it's kind of like a spoon, right? It's more of a blunt force weapon. It doesn't really do as much cutting force, but it's a very wide weapon compared to most people. And so it hits people in ways that they don't expect because they hop up on top of us. Like we do wear robots as hats a lot. We did add the little forward popped collar to try to prevent some of that when we want, right? Because we do have shorter armor, and you might see that later in the season as a configuration. But so sometimes we want people to wear, or sometimes we want to wear people as hats, sometimes we don't. And so, but as a result of
depends what's in fashion,
Correct. Right. We're very in with the trends, obviously.
Right. Exactly. And so it hits in different ways that people don't expect. And so while, some people might have a vertical spinner hit their weapon and, break it as they did, I think part of that was because our design is trying to impart as much energy in the other robot as possible in one hit, as opposed to cutting through them. And so when their weapon, which was spinning, hit our weapon, it really just kind of sent as much force as possible through their weapon bearings. And so it was, as you saw, the shattered bearing there, and it was pretty exciting. So people just don't really expect Tantrum to even hit something either.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, we're super excited about that, and we're looking forward to our next fight. So definitely keep your eye open for Tantrum's next fight. And hopefully this will set us up well for making it to the bracket too. So we think we're on the right path. So now our next fight I guess the fight before this, technically in the episode, was Blip versus Rusty. Aren, can you talk about maybe some of the things that were weighing on the Blip team specifically going into the Rusty fight? What was at stake, and what do you think was the biggest risk?
The Rusty fight was a little interesting. As many people know, Rusty brought Rusty Jr. to the event. And he was working on that. And you can head, like, the Iron Force Facebook page and social media accounts has a decent write-up of why we saw old Rusty instead of new Rusty. So it was a couple day delay for deciding pause on Rusty Jr. and bring out OG Rusty. So during that time, we were basically making sure every single thing was done as perfectly as possible and working on spares. We had no idea what they're going to throw at us later. We knew due to the delay, we'd likely get compressed fights later. Figuring out where we could help Rusty when possible, as far as making the match happen, and anything we could do to help there. So we knew, Rusty's not going to hurt Blip much. Blip's very much a brick, very similar to the sibling Tantrum. So having a sledgehammer bop down on top's not going to do that much. So our biggest concerns going into the fight were our own reliability. People saw last year against Valkyrie, we were doing pretty good in the match and then just stopped. So that type of failure was our biggest concern, which kind of, that losing to yourself is like the worst way to lose. It's not a great show. It's not a great feeling at all. Mm-hmm. So prepping for that fight was just go test, make sure everything is happy. We did a lot of testing at home, so we actually had pretty good confidence in the weapon, but things play different when you're in the box, as like Hydra saw against Endgame. Like, they'd flipped a ton at home, fire the pump up a second time, and it smokes.
Yeah, totally.
So that type of issue is the one that's the worst.
Yeah, and I think bringing like this totally new technology to the box as well was, at least I thought it was like pretty high stakes, because it would suck if it didn't work, but if it did work, that would also be like really exciting. And I think pretty groundbreaking to have totally new flipper design in the box. And we got a really sick flip against Rusty too. That was awesome right out the gate in the beginning of the match. I thought that was quite exciting.
Well, it's been sitting outside for you. You gotta, shake the rust off.
Yeah. Awesome. And what was it like, Aren, going up against Dave and the beloved Rusty? Did you feel like you were sort of hitting on
like
favorite?
Rusty is built an hour away from where my parents still live in Illinois on a farm there. So it's funny to have that because grew up on farm Illinois, not that far away. So it's fun to chat with Dave. There's some similarities with things we've played with and messed with. He ran into a lot of issues for the new bot of supply chain things, which a whole lot of people are playing with. He's a super genuine guy. You can't say anything bad about him. Like I wish I had like a tenth of his charisma at the Battlebots putting on a show side of stuff. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Rusty and Dave.
Awesome. Cool. So I think Aren already mentioned this, but definitely go to the Iron Force Rusty Facebook page as well to sort of get Dave's inside scoop on what happened with Rusty and Rusty Jr. And if you want to hear more from us, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is seems.reasonable. And we also have a Facebook page where we sort of cross post a lot of things. And as always, huge shout out to our sponsors, especially this year, bringing 2 robots and having twice as many parts to make. We could not have done it without all of the sort of in-kind and manufacturing support from all of our sponsors. So
yeah, the episode was nice enough. Like they put some great close-ups of the internals of Blip, and then E2E Manufacturing was one of the people that made Blip possible from some of the silly parts that had to get machined.
Yeah,
and that's a specific shout out for them.
So definitely check them out if you have something you're interested in getting made, because they were really great. And then finally, we also have a merch shop, seemsreasonable.shop. We have t-shirts, hoodies. I think Alex has some items he wants to show off.
Oh yeah, I've been drinking from my mugs lately.
Yeah.
And then we also actually have jerseys. I'm really excited for those because I think the jerseys really helped us glow up this year.
Mhm.
Yeah, we advanced past the gray t-shirt and the logo.
Yeah.
The team did an awesome job. Katie, one of the new team members this year, made a whole lot happen on the graphic side of stuff,
Definitely.
including all the artwork that's on poker chips and stuff. Like, so the wealth of experience and capabilities just keeps growing for Seems Reasonable.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much if you made it to the end and listened to us chat about robots for X amount of time. We're going to be doing these again. So if you have any questions, anything you're interested in, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a comment, slide into our DMs for sure. And also a lot of people have been asking about a Blip flywheel flipper in-depth explanation video, which we are working on. We want to make sure it's really accessible both to people maybe without an engineering background, and we also want to get into nitty-gritty of what we had to go into to make it work. So we're consulting with a lot of people and we're going to put something together. So hold in there, follow us so you can get notified when it comes out. And again, thank you.
If some random person on the internet explains it to you, it's probably wrong.
Some are right, some get close. Let's be nice.
Yeah.
But again, thank you all so much. It truly means a lot. We love Battlebots, and we couldn't do it without all of you and all of your support. So thank you again, and see you all later.
Yep.